as a Christian, could it be that I am more Jewish than actual Jewish people? I know I have to give a disclaimer filling up the first full minute of this video, because some people get so caught up in what it means to be Jewish that they're going to lose the whole point of this video. So let me go ahead and explain the disclaimer that I always have to say in videos that have Jewish in the title. I understand that the concept of Jewish DNA, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're Jewish, because being Jewish is being part of the Jewish faith. So therefore, you could be 100% Chinese, convert to Judaism, and therefore you're Jewish. And it doesn't matter about your ethnic background. I'm fully aware of that. However, undeniably, no matter what inconsistencies we see with DNA test, we can largely, for the most part, see a pattern in which people who are of the Jewish faith and have been that way tradition through their family, they're going to have a higher percentage of Jewish DNA than people who don't. So yes, Jewish DNA exists. That's what I believe. There are people who will say that it doesn't, and that ultimately it all gets mixed up with Italian DNA or whatever it actually is. But if you take a DNA test, it may show that you have Jewish DNA. So enough people believe that version of reality that we can have a conversation about it. Man, I have to take up 2 minutes to do this disclaimer, but that's how it is. If I don't say that, people get so distracted by that. With that being said, I'm not of the Jewish faith. My mother, her DNA test said 15.2% Sephardic Jewish, and it also said 14% West Asian. I believe that there's a good chance that even that West Asian was somehow maybe even Jewish as well, and maybe that those people also are of the Jewish faith. They married each other, had a kid, and then somehow the kid ended up becoming Catholic along the way. However it happened, because that was in Italy, by the time they got here, they were raised in a Catholic orphanage. So it's hard to really know, okay? With that being said, my mother having that Jewish DNA, and us always instinctively knowing that it was there without us ever being told, we always knew it. We always felt connected to people who were Jewish, ethnically Jewish. We always felt a connection to them. With that being said, I'm not a very Jewish person necessarily, even if by default I would qualify because my mother has that in her DNA. And people who are actually Jewish say that all the time in my videos. I feel like this whole video is a disclaimer, but that's where we've come to in these videos. People argue so much and change the subject so much that we can't just talk about the thing from out the gate. With that being said, is it possible that I'm more Jewish than actual Jewish people, even though I'm not of the Jewish faith? That's my question. Now, just for fun, and not most Christians can't say this, but I can. In addition to having some Jewish DNA, I also am kosher. And this is no trend. I have been kosher for 10.5 years. So I have not eaten pork. I have not eaten shellfish. I do not eat beef with cheese, beef with dairy. I am kosher, and I have been for a long time. 10.5 years is a long time. That's commitment. And I think ultimately, and I started doing that before the DNA test even confirmed anything, because I just started seeing that for me, health-wise, that was really what I needed to do. But then I started making the connection that made me think, maybe I am part Jewish, because when I have shellfish and pork, it causes my skin to break out, dyshidrotic eczema. So maybe that confirms that I am part Jewish. It would be years later, like about 10 years later, before it would be confirmed that there actually was Jewish DNA. With that being said, loosely, you may say that I'm kind of like a Messianic Jew. A person who is ethnically Jewish but chooses the faith of Christianity as opposed to Judaism, but still recognizes some of the practices of the Jewish faith. You might say very loosely, I'm some version of a Messianic Jew. I don't know that you would say that, but I definitely am strictly kosher for 10.5 years. And even here in the United States, it's common for Jewish people to not be as kosher as I am. when I do meet Jewish people, I always bring it up. I always want to know. But typically, I find that I'm stricter than they are when it comes to that. So I know it's a little bit of an arbitrary definition as far as what exactly is Jewish, because there's the people who say it's faith only. There's others who, most people would say, well, it's an ethnic background that's coincided with the faith, and they're often the same, but they can be exclusive. Either way, whatever your perception of being Jewish is, I know it would be fun if you just simply want to leave a comment with a percentage. You can rate me for how Jewish I qualify. Out of 100%, how Jewish am I? Based on everything you've heard in this video, you get to be the judge. You know, and that's considering that there are atheist Jews. People who, if they took a DNA test, it'd say 100% Jewish, and it'd show the map and it'd go straight to Israel and say 100%, but yet they're atheist, so and they have nothing to do with the Jewish faith. Even though the test said the 100%. Maybe I'm more Jewish than they are by default, because I believe more of their faith than their own pre-existing faith had. The comment section is right here. If nothing else, just leave a percent of how Jewish you think I am. And if you'd like to elaborate by telling me, could you possibly agree with my theory here that in some ways I'm more Jewish than actual Jewish people? You be the judge.